Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Ebenau, Dave Crossan with you here in hour number 2 of the show. And Dave, I think we should have a little fun with this financial wake-up call. A little rock and roll, air guitar, air drums.
There it is, just like that.
Let's play the music. Do a little rap.
Financial wake-up call music.
I say financial wake-up call.
No theme song. We got to work on that.
Maybe we can write up a rap.
All right, something's okay. We're going to work on that.
Or we can just stick to good old rock and roll.
Dun, 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 the financial wake-up call. Okay, all right. Yeah. Anyway, with that being said, this one I received, actually, this topic from many clients because that are curious about different parts of estate planning. Okay, and there's a lot of different aspects to estate planning. So what I always tell people, do not focus in on what you have been told by the neighbor or the friend or, that you need this document and that document for your estate planning. And there's some basic documents that most people should have. But what I tell people is when you go see an attorney for your estate planning, list out exactly what you're trying to accomplish while you're living and upon your passing.
Okay.
So in other words, if something happens to you, who should handle those affairs? Who should pay your bills and your different expenses?
Right.
Is it going to be a family member? Is it going to be, say, an attorney or maybe a financial institution? Now, upon your passing, who is then going to handle the distribution of your assets? Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Don't worry about, should I have a will? Should I have a trust? Should I have a power of attorney? Should I have this? Should I have that? Write down what you're trying to do. And what an attorney is going to do is say, okay, based on what you're trying to accomplish while you're living and upon your passing, this is the direction, if you will. These are the documents that will get you there. So I think for a lot of people, they get so nervous that they're like, oh, I need a trust and I need this and I need that. And it's, what you need is to do the deep breath and just say, okay, here's where we're at. So where am I going with this? I have no idea. No, here is where we are going. So trusts. That's one of those terms that, everybody's passing around. You need a trust for this. You need a trust for that.
Right.
Well, okay. So here's what I thought I would do, Vin.
All right.
2 common trusts. We've heard maybe a revocable trust, and maybe we've heard about an irrevocable trust.
Yep.
So my first question to you, Mr. Vin, is when I say revocable trust, what does that make you think? If I can revoke something, I can or change it, alter it, make adjustments.
Okay.
So just like it sounds, with a revocable trust, it's something that I can change. You do not lose control of that. So think about what I'm saying here. If I can change it and I can alter it, I have control of it. All right. So why do people use revocable trusts? Okay, for number one, any assets that are put in a revocable trust, if something happens to that individual, the trust would be able to distribute the assets. Okay, the trustee that is, upon the passing of the person for who the trust is for.
Right.
It has the ability to do the distributions and avoid the probate process, because in the trust, it would clearly outline, okay, something happens to me. This is my trust. Here is the distribution, and I want my assets to go to this person or that charity, whatever the situation is. Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing to consider, with New Jersey, it's not a challenging state when it comes to going through the probate process. It's pretty simple. It's not overly expensive.
Okay.
And it's pretty quick. For other states, though, for example, a lot of our listeners may have property in, say, Florida or California, where it is time-consuming, where it is expensive if something has to go through the probate process. So what a lot of people may do is, with their property outside of the state, is put that in a revocable trust. And in that situation, if something happens, then that property, it clearly indicates where that property should go.
Okay.
It's pretty simple. Again, this is something where you do want to lean on an estate planning attorney, especially for the state that you're you have the property in. And if you're in Florida, obviously use somebody who is well-versed and licensed to handle that in Florida, or it's New Jersey. Make sure that you're speaking to somebody who can handle what you're trying to accomplish
Right, makes sense.
for the state that you're looking to get assistance with. But for states where the probate is challenging, revocable trusts are used a lot more to benefit people so that there isn't that probate process. So the beneficiaries don't have to go through a lengthy time frame to settle up the assets. And unfortunately, it can be very expensive. Like I said, New Jersey, it's not as challenging, not as expensive, but for other states, it can be very expensive and take a long time. And so, like I mentioned before, Vin, with revocable, you can change it. So for a lot of people, they have a fear, if you will, that, if I put it in there, I can't change it. And what if something happens and I want to have it be a different beneficiary, whatever the situation is, or I want to change the language? Well, being that it's revocable, it can be changed, it can be altered, and you have full control of it. Okay. And again, upon your passing, whatever the dollar amount is in your revocable trust and your other assets is always part of your estate. So consider that revocable trust. It doesn't get it out of your estate. Let's make up a number. Let's say it was worth $500,000 at your passing. When there is an evaluation of your overall size of your estate for the possibility of, say, estate tax, they're going to look at that as part of your assets. Okay. So if you control something, and you can change something like we're talking about with a revocable trust,
right,
it is part of your estate. I think that's one question that people ask me is, well, if I put money in this trust, then it's out of my estate and I can't change it. Well, no, that's not the case. With revocable, you can alter it, you can change it, and it is part of your estate. So one disadvantage you could say is if you're trying to get something out of your estate for, say, estate tax purposes, well, it is part of the calculation. Now, luckily, we're north of $12 million when it comes to estate taxes. New Jersey doesn't have an estate tax.
Gotcha.
And the federal level is north of $12 million. But depending on somebody's situation, there are other reasons why people may want to get assets out of their estate. This here does a lot for somebody to avoid that probate process and have the ability and the control to make adjustments if they wish to. Okay? So now we're going to shift to an irrevocable trust. And in a nutshell, just like it sounds, it can't be changed. It is what it is. So then you're thinking, well, David, why would I want that? A year from now, I may want to make a change or whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
Well, okay, consider this. For somebody that's trying to get money outside of their estate, so upon their passing, it's not part of the calculation. So for whatever reason, maybe they have sizable assets that if this asset in particular, if they pass with that asset, then it's part of the calculation. Maybe that puts them over that threshold. Another item, too, is maybe for somebody that is looking to qualify down the road for, say, Medicaid. And there's that 5-year look back. Now, again, transferring assets into an irrevocable trust, it would have to be in there beyond that 5 years for it to be outside of the for Medicaid purposes, so it wouldn't count against the person.
All right.
Now, to get something out of your state, it's now 3 years. So I just want to make sure I'm making that clear. To get it outside of your estate, 3 years, if it was transferred in. For Medicaid purpose, they look for anything prior to 5 years. Okay.
Got it.
And again, lean on an expert to have that conversation and qualifications and all that fun stuff. Another reason, too, is say somebody has a life insurance policy, which the big mistake is it's completely tax-free. No, it's income tax-free.
All right.
If you own an insurance policy, again, I pass away and let's say I had $1 million policy, I own it. Well, guess what? It just ballooned my estate up by $1 million. And it'd be part of that calculation to see if I'm over that threshold. For somebody that wants it to be completely tax-free, they may utilize what is called an irrevocable life insurance trust. I lose the control. It's in that trust. And then, again, let's say it's an existing policy and I transferred it into it, 3-year look back on that. If I establish the policy initially being owned by the irrevocable life insurance trust, it would then be out of my estate. Okay. The reason I wanted to bring that up is there's a lot of different language. Revocable, irrevocable. Just consider this. When it's revocable, you can change it. You own it. You have control of it. It's part of your estate upon your passing. Irrevocable, you lose control. You don't have ownership, but yet if it's something for like a later benefit, you want it out of your estate for that calculation, irrevocable, can't change it. But then the benefit is it's outside the estate. Again, assuming it's north of the 3 years that it's in there, or in the case of a life insurance policy, if it's established in that ownership originally, to get that out of your estate. Wanted to bring up the differences, why somebody would do it, for maybe looking for different qualifications for different programs, but each has its own benefits. Lean on an estate planning attorney to see what makes sense. If it makes sense, either of these makes sense, and why somebody would consider doing it.
That's what I call a financial wake-up call with a little bit of rock and roll.
There you go.
Dave, people can reach the show short time at townsquaremedia.com. Where can they get in touch with you to learn more about all this at Shoreline Wealth Management?
732-902-7880, or, of course, visit us at shorelinewealth.com.
There it is. Go visit. Get in touch with Dave. We have a fun guest who knows some things about rock and roll coming up next. That is Southside Johnny, the Southside Johnny of Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. More short time with Vin and Dave coming up next with Southside Johnny on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. This information is not intended to be a substitute for individualized legal advice. Please consult your legal advisor regarding your specific situation.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.
Whether you are in the early stages of investing, getting ready to retire, or planning your estate, you need a financial planner who will guide you on a clear path with honesty and transparency. Shoreline Wealth Management provides clarity through the complexity. Shoreline's system is straightforward. They will understand your financial circumstances, identify goals, analyze current plans, and customize a path to position you to reach your goals. Shoreline Wealth Management is your financial anchor. Visit shorelinewealth.com for more information today. shorelinewealth.com. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC.
Hey, it's Chris Carlin from Rutgers Football and 98.7 ESPN in New York, and you're listening to Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. These fellas are entertaining.
Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Ebenau, Dave Crossan with you. And joining us this hour is our celebrity of the hour, celebrity Jersey Shore native, Southside Johnny Lyon from Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes, and a New Jersey Hall of Famer.
Oh, boy.
Congratulations there.
I wish
Welcome.
my parents were alive to see that. They would have never believed that in a million years.
What was that like? We'll start there. What was it like getting inducted into the New Jersey Hall of Fame?
They asked a couple of times, and I said no, but John Bon Jovi finally called me and said, you got to do it. And I'll introduce you, and, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, but it was fun. I mean, it was real easy, and it was there was a lot of good people there. The Smithereens went in at the same time.
Nice.
Oh, there we go.
And Gary Talent from Bruce's band was there, my old friend from high school. It was just easy. And then we went to dinner with the governor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's right. So don't mess with me, all right?
Okay.
That's a good night. Because I heard John Bon Jovi's speech as well. So hearing what he said that night while he was inducting you, what did that mean to you?
I didn't listen.
Oh, he didn't?
No. I mean, I know what he's going to say, so.
Did he tell you ahead of time what he was going to get into?
He looked up to you.
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm to blame for his career or something like that.
So for anything with Bon Jovi.
Exactly.
So, no, I know what he was going to say.
Yeah.
He talked about it and all that. It's very flattering and very surprising and kind of cool. But on the other hand, I don't know if I want to be in a Hall of Fame that would have me in it,
Yeah, but you have to be in it. New Jersey Hall of Fame, that's a done deal. It's a must.
But I'm such a disreputable person, I don't know if I want to be in my own company.
And a little humble, too. See,
Yeah, I like
little
that.
humble at that.
I would say humble, just I know who I am.
Exactly.
The real Southside Johnny. So you've been certainly a nice career as well, going from starting in the 70s and everything. So what got you into wanting to become a rock star, getting into performing, singing, being with the band, putting together the Asbury Jukes? How did this all come to be? What got you into rock and roll?
Well, I grew up listening to good music from my parents. My mother and father listened to Louis Armstrong and Big Joe Turner and Ray Charles, T-Bone Walker, a lot of R&B, a lot of jazz. So I just naturally thought everybody listened to that.
Sure.
And when I started listening to rock and roll, it seemed normal to me. You know what I mean? It wasn't like some revelation. It was just fun music, rhythm and blues, rock and roll. And I knew I just had a facility for all the words, so I used to hang out with a band called Sonny and the Starfires.
Ah, okay.
A friend of mine was drumming for them before Vinny Lopez took over the drum seat. And they would let me come up and sing. And I kind of got that feeling that maybe that would be something I'd like to do. But I never believed in it as a career until I met Gary Talent, Bruce's bass player, in high school. And then Steve Van Zandt and then Bruce. And they all said, we're going to be musicians. There was no, fallback system. There was no plan B. That's what they were going to be. Hell or high water. And I thought, well, I want to do that too. And that's 50-some years ago. I could have been a doctor.
Has it flown by for you?
Yes. Oh, please. I mean, a lot of it is a long haul. We used to play 250 shows a year.
Wow. Oh.
Wow.
And I just saw a poster from 78, 77, something like that, in England. And we played virtually 5 nights a week. And,
oh, wow.
And that's with travel. And, luckily England's not that big, but it was France, Scandinavia. And I'm thinking back, how the hell did I do that? You just, every night you're on stage. And it was good to be young. I couldn't do it now, that's for sure.
What was it like going out on stage, every night in front of a different crowd, different audience? In the case on the road, traveling across Europe, coming out and greeting the crowd. Was it different every night? Did you have to come up with a different kind of intro or welcome?
No, I just sort of let it flow. I mean, we do a different show every night. I didn't have the same set list night after night. That sounded too much like work to me. I wanted to, you got to keep it fresh for the band too.
Sure.
I mean, it might be the first time you're playing in some little town in England, but the band has played these songs a million times, so you have to do different songs every night so people don't get complacent. And after that, I just kind of let myself be myself, whichever mood I was in, whether I was happy or angry or disgusted, and you kind of just go with how you're really feeling. And it seems to work. I mean, we're not putting on an act up there. We're really glad to be playing music, but I'm also glad to be bantering with the audience.
Whether it's United States, New Jersey, or Europe, how do you go about putting together a set list every night? How do you determine what order you want to go in, what songs you want to put together that night?
It depends on, as I say, how you feel. If I feel like I want to crank it out, we'll do 5 or 6 fast songs in a row. If I feel like there's certain clubs that bring out the more, I don't want to say musical, but more studied songs, the slower things and the more, instead of the straight ahead rock and roll. And you have to know the audience, you have to know the club, and you have to know how you're feeling. And you call songs on stage. Fortunately, I have a band that, if I turn around and go real, they go into this time it's for real. So, they've learned all of the shorthand that goes on stage. But you really I can't do the same thing night after night. I'd get bored, and I think that my mind would start to drift. If I knew what every song was coming up, I might lose focus, is what I'm saying. Well, chair is making a lot of noise.
Well, let's go back
It's a musical chair.
There we go.
So you have a show, what is it, July 2nd at the Stone Pony.
Yeah.
Let's go back in time to your start, the Stone Pony, and everything that was going on. What was that like?
I actually worked at a place called Mrs. J's, which is what the Stone Pony turned into, and they had a club on one side and a sandwich bar on the other side, and I worked in the sandwich bar until I got fired.
What'd you do?
Well, they would make you measure the amount of meat you could put on a sandwich.
Oh, really?
Oh.
You'd have a little scale, and you had to put, I forget, 2 ounces or whatever the heck it was. And I was, that's what they taught me. That's what I did. And these two little ladies from Ocean Grove complained that the sandwiches were not big enough. And I thought, well, and the guy says, why don't you give them a little bit extra? And that was the end of it. I said, because you told me to measure it. Oh, jeez.
They want more deli meat on their sandwiches.
But anyway, so the club next door, Mrs. J's, had a lot of traditional kind of club bands, doing What I Say with the dirty lyrics and all that stuff, and play till 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's what turned into the Stone Pony. We used to sneak in at 15 and 16 and see all the bands, the Jaywalkers, Cherry Bomb, and the Aztecs. And eventually when they made it into a rock and roll club, we got to play there, but we got to play there the 3 worst nights because we didn't do top 40. And we did a lot of different things, blues and all. We played Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, which are, work nights.
Sure.
So, and finally we played one Sunday in the snow. It was like 2 feet of snow, and we sold the place out. And the guy, finally, Butch and Jack said, well, maybe you should do the weekends too, So we graduated to weekends.
What is it about the Stone Pony that you've liked performing at all these years? What is it about that spot in Asbury Park that makes it feel like home, or like it's always a good vibe, a good crowd?
Well, they do a great job. I mean, the outdoor stage it's thousands of people, but it sounds good, and people sit on the boardwalk. It's just a fun night. I mean, it's not, you don't take it that seriously in a sense that you're not worried about it. Everybody's going to be really ready for Freddie there. And so for us, it's you jump on stage, you start playing, everybody goes crazy, and 2 hours flies by.
And you bring up a great point, is because of the outside setting, people can be walking by and hear it, and it creates such a buzz and excitement for not only people at the concert, but everybody in the area.
Yeah, and people in Ocean Grove can hear it too.
Remember that time with the sandwich?
Yeah. We used to have a guy when Stone Pony was still just a Stone Pony indoors, and Robert English, his name was. I think he's long gone. But he used to complain every Saturday night. Call the police and complain about the loud noise coming from Asbury Park. And it was us, and finally...
Little did he know who he was complaining about.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the Hall of Fame and he ain't.
There you go.
There it is.
Exactly.
When you're putting together these songs, I want to talk about some of the writing for a little bit over the years. What has inspired you, or what inspires you with either writing out some songs or trying to put different thoughts together, or getting any input from other members of the band, or family, friends, community? What goes into songwriting? How did you put all together?
You mean the songwriting or set writing?
Actually, go with songwriting, to develop a song.
Songs just come to you. I mean, when you sit down to write, usually you don't get anything you really like, but you could be driving. I used to ride the train back and forth to New York, the little local train there. And I would ride on the train, just take the trip up and the trip back. And for a couple of hours, you'd sit on the train, and the movement stimulates you. And I would write a lot of stuff like that. I still do write in the car, which is it's not good to write at 70 miles an hour.
Probably not. Well, let me ask you this. So when you're writing out different lyrics. At that point, are you matching up how the music would be, or is it purely writing out your thoughts and then later figuring out how the music will come with it or go together?
Well, usually if I write a lyric, I hear a melody, I hear tempo and style. But I work with Jeff Kazee, who's my keyboard player and a good friend, and he's great, brilliant. He can really put a song together on the computer with the keyboards and the whole bit. So I always listen to his input, melodies, chord changes, things like that. And he also helps with the lyrics. So he's just a great partner, great collaborator. So it's not all me. I mean, I will write a whole lyric, but we'll go over it, refine it, and it's good to have somebody to bounce ideas off of.
And how does it come together with putting the music? Do you have to write the lyrics and write the song first, or do you come up with the beat, the rhythm, guitar, drums, harmonica, the whole works, or do you do one before the other, or is it
usually you get a beat and you on the computer? He's got many keyboards that are all hooked up to the computer, and he uses this thing called Pro Tools, and the Pro Tools lets you put down rhythm Everything.
Okay.
You got strings, you got horns, everything on the keyboard. And we usually flesh out what we want the song to sound like. But then when you take it into rehearsal with the rest of the Jukes, they will come up with ideas too and change arrangement things and come up with something a little more interesting. So, it's very much a collaborative effort.
Do you find that in concerts you guys can expand a little bit more than, I guess, within the confines of a 3-4 minute song or whatever, and feature a little bit more on the guitar, maybe a guitar solo or drum solo, or you can interact with a lot of the different fans and have some fun?
Everything but a drum solo. Sorry, Tommy.
No drum solos.
Sorry, Tommy. No, and we do that a lot. I mean, that's part of the reason we're in a band is we want to explore things. We don't want to do the same thing, same song, same way all the time. And we write songs on stage. We've done that and done songs we never rehearsed. Just kind of fumble
Just
through
put it out there. That's nice.
Well, I got great musicians. And if I know some of the lyrics, usually we can stumble through it. And if it works, the audience my audience knows who we are. We're kind of ragtag. We're not, precision instruments at all. But we can improvise on stage, and the audience understands that. And if it doesn't work, you go right into I Don't Want to Go Home, and everything is forgiven.
There you go.
What would you say with music, growing up and being in a band to the way music is now? Do you find that we've gotten away from bands and we've become more individual, or do you find that there was a resurgence?
I think there's a million bands out there now. It's just that there's a lot more places to play, but of course with the pandemic, that got really truncated. There's a bunch of places to play in Asbury Park now and all around the Jersey Shore. And there's a lot of bands. I mean, it's funny, there's a place called The Saint on Main Street in Asbury Park. And I'll drive by, and there's these guys in the black leather jackets and the tight jeans rolling in amplifiers and say, that was me 50 years ago. And so, I think there's a lot. And with the internet, you can hear a lot of stuff. I just don't think radio, no offense, is as open to playing local bands and things like that.
Now, with the pandemic, how did you, that's such a challenging time for all of us in music and couldn't go to venues and hear artists or hear bands. How did you do during that process? Did you do a lot of writing?
I lost my freaking mind.
Did you write though? Like, was it a time to write?
Once I knew that we were going to be off for a while, I started to write, and then I got, like everyone else, I went into the doldrums.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of went, so I would sit on the porch with my neighbors and play guitar, and we'd sing and have cocktails, and people would stop by. But that was it. That was my entire musical outlet, practically. A couple of things on the internet, but I was not very good at that.
What did it feel like, or what does it feel like to be back out there, especially looking back at what happened during the pandemic, to be back out on the road performing again?
It's great. I mean, it's like I said, you go into the doldrums, you get kind of blasé about things, and you really need an audience. So once we get in front of an audience, it's great, but it still seems like a lot of work. It was so easy not traveling around.
Yeah.
We're going this weekend. We're playing Staten Island and Cleveland because that's kind of routing we get.
Nice.
I'm glad to do it. I'm happy to be on the stage and all that, but the travel is still, it's from not doing it for 2 years, it's kind of, I don't have to, drive in a car for 5 hours or get on a bus. And it was nice, but this is better.
Have there been any particular spots that, we talked about the Stone Pony, but any spots along the years of touring and performing that have really stood out to you as to say this is a great place to perform?
The Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia, and the Ram's Head in Annapolis. There's a place called the Paradiso, which is a converted church in Amsterdam, which is just a rock and roll palace. They are crazy there. And there's 2 levels. There's the ground level, which is kind of a big dance floor thing, and you're up on the stage. And that's where they drink all the beer and get crazy. And then there's the whole upper balcony thing where they smoke pot and don't get crazy. So when you sing a ballad, you sing it to the upper thing. And when you get sing a rock and roll song, you go to the beer drinkers. And it's really a great place to play. But there's a lot of them. There's plenty of them that I played that I really like.
Cleveland. 1977.
Oh, the Agora, right. Yeah, Cleveland. That was the first show I think we ever did there, if I'm right. I might be wrong, but could be the second. what had happened was we got signed to a record contract for Epic Records by Steve Popovich, who's from Cleveland. He was head of A&R for Epic in New York City. Came down to see us, really liked us, came down a second time with the secretaries from the building, and they really liked us, and a couple of them got picked up by a couple of the guys, and all was a real good night, is what I'm saying. So he signed us to a contract, but we had made a demo of I Don't Want to Go Home and The Fever, I think, and maybe 2 other songs, with a bunch of high school kids from Asbury Park High School as horns, because we didn't have a horn section. We wanted horns, Steve Van Zandt and I. And he had sent that demo to Kid Leo, one of the big DJs in Cleveland, and he started playing the demo, which was all out of tune and everything like that. And I couldn't believe it. It was in Billboard magazine, up and coming. I Don't Want to Go Home by Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. I said, we haven't even made the record yet. I called him up and yelled at him, but we became good friends after that. But that's the kind of thing that went back then. They would send out demos and things like that.
Dave and I have to go to a break, but we want to get more into your concert in Cleveland and the album coming up. Can you hang with us a little bit longer?
Sure, I was leading up to that.
All right, there we go. See, we're Southside and I are, same brain waves there. Thinking the same thing, same time.
We're in sync.
There we go. That's the word.
Another band.
We can talk about them too if you want later.
I don't know them that much. So.
More Short Time with Vin and Dave and Southside Johnny right after this.
Hello, this is Chef David Burke on Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. And if you could see us, you'd know the 3 of us have perfect faces for radio. Hello, this is Chef David Burke on Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. And if you could see us, you'd know the 3 of us have perfect faces for radio.
Let's face it, investment concepts and financial planning can be very intimidating and confusing. Shoreline Wealth Management addresses that feeling head on. Their goal is to educate you while offering financial advice without buzzwords and jargon. Shoreline includes you in the process and makes you comfortable every step of the way. Shoreline Wealth Management is your financial anchor. Visit shorelinewealth.com for more information and start your financial journey with comfort and security today. Shoreline Wealth Management with offices in Manchester and Manahawkin. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC.
Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Ebenau, Dave Crossan with you, and with us this morning is Southside Johnny of Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. We've been talking about the years of rock and roll. We closed out the first segment talking about the concert in Cleveland in 1977 and what led into that, and of course, album coming out next month, Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes live in Cleveland, 1977. So with that, we talked about that, and obviously Ronnie Spector there as well, but you talked about some of how that came to be. So what was that Cleveland concert in 77 like, and then in putting together that whole concert, that whole show and album?
Well, it was a great time for us. We were traveling on the road, which I always wanted to do, on a bus. It was an old bus that we had converted into a tour bus, which means that it was really funky. But anyway, the point of the story I was telling before is that we became very popular in Cleveland before we ever played there. So when we first went there, we played to this place called the Agora, which is where this is recorded. I think it holds like 600 people. I don't remember exactly. And it was sold out. And, I thought, well, okay, we better be good.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, and
right?
the people were crazy. They had heard the album finally, once we got the album to Leo, and they really liked it, and we had a great night. And then Ronnie Spector came out, and they just went completely berserk. So it was, the energy level was so high that it just carried you through. There was no nerves or anything. It was just crazy from beginning to end.
And what about the people from Cleveland? What was it that you felt like even before you got there, they were so on board with your music?
I think it's because Kid Leo played the records, but also Cleveland is a legendary rock and roll town. I mean, Ian Hunter wrote Cleveland Rocks, and he meant that. It always was a rock and roll. I've seen so many different acts there, and they all go over because people really take pride in the fact that they're a rock and roll town. It's like Asbury Park in some ways for some people.
And you did say goodbye to Hollywood that night as well. Now, it was with Ronnie Spector.
Right.
So what was it like doing that song together with her?
Well, we did it a number of times. She was on the road with us for a few months. I forget exactly how long. So we had done it. It's not like it was a surprise. It was easy. she's a delight on stage. She was a delightful person, and she loved being in front of an audience, and I just kind of fed off of her energy too. And it was always a lot of fun, and everybody got to be Ronettes in the band. They got to sing "Be My Baby." And
there you go.
And they like that.
I want to play a couple excerpts from a couple songs with the album Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes live in Cleveland '77 coming out next month. So a couple excerpts from a couple of the songs. First, I Don't Want to Go Home, and the other, Got to Get You Off of My Mind. So first with Got to Get You Off of My Mind, before we play that, what is that song about? And what can you tell us about it?
It's a song by Solomon Burke, the great R&B singer, and we needed some songs, and Stephen and I both said, let's do that one. It was just an idea for the album. We didn't have enough songs, original songs, and we wanted to cover some R&B just to make people understand where we're coming from. We're not Chicago or Blood, Sweat, and Tears. We're more of a rhythm and blues rock and roll band. And I thought it was important to do a Ray Charles song or a Solomon Burke song, and just to say who we are.
And let's take a listen to some of That was fun listening to that, and I just want to play one more here as we're going along this morning, talking about the Southside Johnny and Asbury Jukes live in Cleveland '77 with "I Don't Want to Go Home." So, what is that song about? How did that come together?
That is a song written by Steve Van Zandt, which is kind of a tribute to Benny King and the Drifters, the great group, great singer, and it's the first song that people played. NEW in New York played it. And we were driving in his car, the Superfly Terraplane, a Pontiac Firebird, I think, down through Deal coming into Asbury Park. And they played a Drifters song. Then they played another song that was like something NEW doesn't play. And then they played I Don't Want to Go Home, and Stephen nearly drove into the lake.
Oh,
it's the first time we heard ourselves on the radio. And we thought, this is easy, It wasn't that easy.
Well, here's a little bit of I Don't Want to Go Home from the Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes live in Cleveland '70s. Clearly one of my personal favorites of yours as well. And you mentioned Stephen Van Zandt in putting together that song, and of course through the course of the conversation this morning as well. What is your friendship, your relationship with Stephen Van Zandt been like over the years, and how much of an impact and an influence he played on what you've done?
Well, I wouldn't probably have the career I had if it wasn't for Stephen and Bruce. Stephen writing and Bruce, giving me songs and things like that. I met Steve when he was 17 years old. We were both 17, I think it was 18. He came into the Upstage Club and played some Yardbirds songs.
Oh, wow.
And I went, wow, who is this guy? And I had seen Bruce the week before. He came upstairs and he played some original stuff. And I went, I don't need this kind of competition. You know? I was kind of the go-to singer there, you know.
Yeah.
But they wanted to be guitar heroes, and I didn't. So we all found a place for ourselves. But he has been the integral part, Stephen, of my career. It's been a long time since we really worked together, and yet I've made a lot of records without him. But he really got it started.
Quick sidebar on Stephen Van Zandt. What did you think of his role as Silvio in The Sopranos?
I thought it was perfect.
Unbelievable, right?
Did you ever see him in Lillehammer, the show he made in Norway?
I didn't see that show, but I loved him in The Sopranos.
Yeah, well, he's the same person in Lillehammer.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I'm going to have to go check that out.
It's a funny show, and he's just so Stephen. There's a side of Stephen that's like that. Let's just say that.
All right. You have to getting to know a little bit more about Stephen Van Zandt here this morning. And of course, Bruce Springsteen, you mentioned him as well. What has it been like to be on stage with Bruce and getting to know Bruce Springsteen?
It was all great. I mean, we were teenagers together. We used to go play pool and ride around in cars and, you know, all that stuff, what you do when you're 17, 18, 19 years old. But we played in bands together, and that was really an education. I had four of us had an apartment in Asbury Park on Sewell Avenue. It was Albany Al, Steve Van Zandt, Johnny Hotkeys, and me. And we played all kinds of different music. Johnny liked country music, old style country. I played a lot of Chicago blues. Steve played a lot of Hendrix and those kind of things. And Albany Al played jazz kind of stuff. So we heard all of that. And we were sponges. We picked up everything. We wanted to try everything. And Bruce would come over and Gary, and we'd play Monopoly, and it was just music all the time.
Do you have any songs over the years that you've either written, covered, or sung at concerts or in studio that really meant a lot to you, that you listen back or in putting together, like, this is something I really wanted to do, a project I wanted to work on, or a song?
Oh, well, I made an album, a big band album of Tom Waits songs with La Bamba, Richie Rosenberg, doing the arrangements. And I was stunned at how adult it sounded. But it really came out. I listened to it not that long ago with some people, and I thought, this really sounds good. And I'm not trying to take credit for it. I was just the singer, you know, picked out some of the songs. But La Bamba's arrangements are great, and the band was terrific. So I'm really proud of that. It's called Grapefruit Moon. If you like big band, but cool, Count Basie big band, not, you know, cornball stuff. That's an album you might want to pick up.
There it is.
Any music now that you're like, wow, this new band or this band I've been listening to is just something special. There's something about them. And what are you listening to right now?
You mentioned In Sync before.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, they're not a new band.
No.
To tell you the truth, every time somebody asks me that, I go blank. I know I've got a million things that I listen to, and they just don't come to me. I mean, what do you like? What's the...
I tell you what, you mentioned the Saint. Look at me. I got my Asbury. I moved to Asbury a couple of years ago. I love it there. And I love, to your point, there's so much different music.
Right.
There's so many different acts. And just to go and like, oh, I don't know this band. I'm going to go check them out. They're amazing.
Have you been to the House of Independence, too?
Not yet.
I haven't been there either.
Okay.
Yeah,
you've never been to it?
No.
Interesting. Okay, because obviously they're open now, and events are going on.
My keyboard player's played there. He does early Elton, which is all the really good Elton John songs, and he really liked it. But after all these years, going out to see a band is something I go, really? How many millions of bands have you seen over the years? It's hard to get out. Plus, people buy me a lot of drinks, and I have a hard time getting home.
I don't want to go home.
Most of the time, that's true.
Have you been able to, or had any bands or different artists come up to you in the Jukes over the years and ask for any kind of advice, or where you got your influence from in trying to give back to some of the up and coming bands?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of bands about that. You know, the basic thing is don't make it a job. enjoy it. I mean, this is what you wanted to do. Now, sometimes it's just ambition and not love of music that makes a musician, but, that's something you have to work out yourself. But if you love making music, forget all the rest of it. Just do that and find ways to get your music disseminated, places to play. And it can be grueling and it can be disturbing and depressing. But if you just let the music come out of you, it's all okay. It makes it all right. You could ride 10 hours on the bus in pouring rain with no heat and get off and there's no food to eat, and then all of a sudden you're on stage and everything's all right. So you got to really just love it or it'll eat you alive.
Do you think it's more challenging today or easier today to get music out because there's so many different ways you can get the music out?
The internet is a great blessing for independent bands. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of radios that play that kind of stuff, as I said. But and we were lucky back then in '76. Radios plays our stuff. Now they don't anymore. You guys do. Some other people, if I put out something new, it'll only get played on a few stations, and that's the way it is for almost every act, unless you are top of the heap in a record company. They're going to put a lot of money into you. You're not going to get anywhere. So it's disconcerting, as I say. But if you get to play, if you can play live and you do get an audience, that's where the fun is. It may not be a lot of money, but you really got to love it.
You have a couple concerts coming up at the Jersey Shore at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City coming up May 21st, and then at Stone Pony on July 2nd. So what are you looking, just specifically to the Jersey Shore here, from Monmouth County all the way down to Atlantic and Cape May and Ocean and everything? What do you like playing about the Jersey Shore? Especially now, May 21st, still ahead of the summer, but July 2nd, obviously in the middle of the summer there. So what is it that you like playing about the Jersey Shore, especially on a nice day at the Stone Pony?
Well, that's an easy one. Everybody comes cranked to they want to have fun. You can play just about anything. You have to be good, and we'll have to be good. But they're ready for fun. They're ready to have a great time, and that's always it's such a lift when you walk on stage and the people go, yay! And you go, okay, this is going to be easy. I don't have to prove anything. My problem with the Jersey Shore is they see me a million times and they know all my tricks. I got to come up with new material. You know what I mean? But I'm very lucky to have been born and raised in New Jersey because it has been very welcoming to guys like me who want to do something different, and it's still blue collar enough that you can go out and just go crazy and play and be loud and forget the lyrics and those kind of things. And they still love you. I don't think I would have done very well in the West Coast. I'm not really a Los Angeles kind of musician.
As we wrap up here, looking back on your career and reflecting, what has this all meant to you, this whole musical journey, to you to just get out there, put together albums, get out there on stage and sing and perform with the Asbury Jukes and everything? What has it all meant to you?
I never thought it would happen to me. Back when we were teenagers, I could see Bruce and Stephen and Gary. They were brilliant players, but they also had great grit and determination, and they had an idea who they were. I was lost. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was going to do. So when I look back, I go, that's amazing that you had a musical career for so long and didn't have to take a day job. And I'm still flabbergasted by the whole thing. I'm still waiting to wake up in the morning and have a 7-Eleven uniform laid out next to the bed and say, oh, God, I got to get to work.
Well, Southside Johnny, it's been an absolute pleasure and delight to have you on here this morning and talking about your career and all the music and everything and having some laughs along the way. So we really do appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys letting me ramble on.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for your shows coming up.
Yeah, and you're welcome back here to ramble on anytime.
Okay, thanks a lot.
We enjoy it. That is Southside Johnny. Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. He's got Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes live in Cleveland '77 coming out on CD in early June, and a limited edition vinyl that'll be released later on this year. The live album features Ronnie Spector joining Southside Johnny on stage, as mentioned, as well as Stephen Van Zandt. More Short Time with Vin and Dave coming up next.
Hi, this is high performance executive coach Dana Cavalier and former director of strength and conditioning for the New York Yankees. And you're listening to Shore Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. It's always great to hang with champions, and these two guys are champions.
Let's face it, investment concepts and financial planning can be very intimidating and confusing. Shoreline Wealth Management addresses that feeling head on. Their goal is to educate you while offering financial advice without buzzwords and jargon. Shoreline includes you in the process and makes you comfortable every step of the way on your path to financial freedom. Shoreline Wealth Management is your financial anchor. Visit shorelinewealth.com for more information today. Shoreline Wealth Management, with offices in Manchester and Manahawkin. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC.
Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Ebenau, Dave Crossan with you here at the end of another Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point, 105.7 The Hawk. Great having John Bergman and Danny Mendez from the Popcorn Park Zoo and Animal Refuge on in hour number 1. And we had a real treat here in hour number 2 as well with Southside Johnny from Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. Great rock and roll star. Little humble as well.
Yeah,
but you know what? It was great.
New Jersey Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
very impressive.
New Jersey Hall of Fame, and it was great going down memory lane, talking about some of the times on tour, putting together certain songs and albums, and of course, talking Dave as well about the release coming up next month about Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes live in Cleveland, 1977. That of course includes Ronnie Spector and Stephen Van Zandt. So. That was great. That was great. Loved having him in here.
And I love the fact that he's got some upcoming shows too. May 21st, Hard Rock in Atlantic City.
Yep.
And of course July 2nd at the Stone Pony. I definitely want to take that one in because that's right in my backyard. And it's so amazing what he was saying with Asbury. And first of all, to be able to go through that journey, be in Asbury during that time, all the music, and for this journey that he's been on. And to just hear his story, his passion about, hey, I didn't expect this, and looking back, look what has happened. And you're right, he is very humble for all his accomplishments. What a great guy.
And such great stories, too. He's a great storyteller. I would love to have him back just to share some more of those stories. I think even when I posed the question, he's like, oh, right. So he's got a lot. So it was great having him on, and loved having him on and talking. And it'd be great to go see him in concert this summer. And yeah, he's like we said, May 21st at Hard Rock NAC, and then the Stone Pony on Saturday, July 2nd.
And you know what I loved about what he said about his different concerts? It's like, you know what? There's no set list, in the sense of this is the order.
Yeah.
He goes with the feel. He goes his mood. He's happy, sad, indifferent, angry, whatever. He goes with it, and the crowd truly appreciates it. And they're going to be fired up for these shows.
And we're going to have some more details on that live album, the Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes live in Cleveland 77, that's going to be released on CD in a couple weeks, and then vinyl later on this year. We'll put that up on our app and website, so make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll have all the details up by this time tomorrow morning, and as all the details that you need to go and find that. And Dave, we got another great show on deck next week.
Just keep coming, buddy. It's good stuff.
Interesting. I'm trying to find a good, interesting way to tease it. So we got the first guest. So we got multiple guests actually next week, and more than just two
that are going to be in here. Yeah,
we got people coming in who are doing a lot of great work for others and helping find healing in Ocean County. Mm-hmm. And then we've got our other guest next week is somebody who I've gotten to know the last few years. He's got a great personality, does a lot to help our local community.
Very true.
In Northern Ocean County. I'll kind of give that hint. He's also done some work in another part of the world to help people this year.
Nicely set up, buddy.
He's a great guy. We got a great show on deck. Dave, have a great Sunday ahead.
My pleasure. What a good time, and thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yeah. So have a great Sunday out there, everybody. A great week ahead. More Short Time with Vin and Dave a week from now, 6 to 8 a.m., 94.3 The Point, 105.7 The Hawk. Till then, we're out.
Good things.
Hi, this is Christy Pierce-Rampone, former U.S. women's soccer team captain, Olympic gold medalist, World Cup champion, and Point Borough High School alum. And you're listening to Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. Tune in for some real conversation with Dave and Vin. You don't want to miss this.